Hello folks, I'm Storm331, back to doing some more guides. This is a retake of the guide that I tried to do yesterday, but I kind of screwed up because I forgot to mute the game audio. But this time we're going to be doing this again. This is Breath of Fire 2 Ryu Guide Take 2. We're going to be focusing mostly on the Destined Child Ryu, Baston, who is the main protagonist of Breath of Fire 2, and probably one of the more tragic Ryus of the entire series. But then again, just about every Ryu in the series is pretty much tragic in some ways. Anyway, this guide's to help newcomers get into this very old game, which was made in 1994/95. And we're going to be covering Ryu, our main protagonist. We're going to go over his strengths, weaknesses, stats, recommended gear, his field, combat abilities, what he does for the most part, and we're going to be getting that done, getting started with that right now. Be forewarned that this guide is kind of unscripted, so you're going to see a lot of mistakes with me saying things among other things, but if you understand what I'm trying to say or do, that will help you out, because the whole purpose of the guide is to help players get into Breath of Fire 2 and to know what they'll be expecting with their characters. One thing to keep in mind is that all guides will cover all party members at level 50. So once we get other party members to level 50, we'll have guides set up for them. And one of the reasons why we have them at level 50 instead of level 99 is because once you go past level 50 to level 99, characters receive less stats. They still get HP and AP every once in a while, but their other stats kind of get minor increases as they go up to 99, and it's definitely not worth building up your party members up to level 99. So by the time you get to level 50, most of your party members will have their maximized stats, and you can also randomize this through using the carpenter that cooks foods to create stat boosting items for your party members. So if you want to max out party members' stats, you'll have to have that carpenter for the most part. But other than that, this guide's focusing on a playthrough that didn't really use any stat boosting items to make sure everything's up to date and pretty much normal. If their stats aren't what they should be, it's mostly due to equipment they're using. So with that out of the way, let's go on ahead and cover Ryu. Ryu here is pretty much the game's main protagonist, aka the Destined Child. As seen at the prologue, he loses his mother at the age of 3, loses his parents loses the rest of his family 3 years after that, gets attacked by a demon after his father and sister go missing, and pretty much leads to the main events of Breath of Fire 2 from there on out. He serves as the game's main protagonist. Now I'm sounding like I'm repeating myself, but for the most part, Ryu is arguably, without a shadow of a doubt, your strongest party member, but there's other party members that could probably outdo him in some categories, but overall, he's pretty much your overall go-to guy, because he's pretty much required to be on your party at all times. You cannot remove him except for points of the game where you have to take control of Sten or Nina for certain events. And Ryu is actually one of your best offensive fighters for the most part. His strong points being strength, stamina, and wisdom. Those are his 3 highest stats. His luck and agility are not that bad. Of course, other characters can probably outdo him in those categories, but Ryu is pretty much just plain out well balanced, and that fits very nicely to his role as the protagonist of this game. Throughout much of level 1 to 50, Ryu's stats kind of fluctuate. His strength being his will always continue to increase, as well as his guts. But his other stats, namely stamina, agility, wisdom, and luck, tend to fluctuate. So they don't really stay in one place until you get to level 50. But by the time you get to level 50, this is pretty much where all of his stats will be at when you get to that point of the game and with his levels. And he pretty much stays pretty much decently strong for the rest of the game. Technically, Ryu is the main reason why we have the gut stat. Based on the number of flames you see on the screen here, the odds of him trying to revive himself from being incapacitated in combat will improve by a small bit, but it doesn't always mean he'll survive every hit. This is also tied to his combat ability Guts, which helps him recover any lost HP he's lost in combat. For the most part, I would strongly not recommend Guts to keep your party alive. Just have any reviving spells and items on hand, and that should pretty much cover your revivals for that. But Guts does have a small opportunity of resisting getting instant death or getting killed off entirely. But that chance of happening is pretty small. So anyway, Ryu can equip mostly swords, but he can also equip some daggers and rapiers. Ironically, one of those rapiers being Sean's No Twin Rapier. For elemental swords, Ryu gets a pretty good selection of weaponry of elementals. For fire, he gets access to Flame Sword and Dragon Sword. For ice, he gets King Sword if you recruit Leamington to Township. You also get the Empire Sword, which is Ryu's ultimate weapon, and it also has the only weapon he gets that has access to lightning damage. He does get access to a few holy-based weapons, namely Soul Sword, which you get at 7th Fort after you defeat Kaladora, and you can also equip the Elmorod Sword, which also gives Ryu the ability to inflict holy-based damage, as well as a few stat gains. But overall, Ryu has pretty much a good wide coverage of stats and weapons to use, making him very good for just about almost every situation. So now that we've covered what Ryu's main strengths are, as well as some of the weaker points, let's go into covering his field and combat abilities. So we're going to cover his field ability being fishing. Fishing is basically allows Ryu to fish any fish, Miron, the fish merchants, or in some cases treasure chests out of the ocean. And of course, you need to have a rod and fishing bait in order to do that. So if you have those things, you can always go to the equip screen from the options and select your bait as well as your rod. Now, Ryu does get a total of 4 rods during the course of the game. Charm Rod being the best rod in the entire game. Of course. The first one you get is Tree Pole, which you'll get during Prologue. It's the weakest of the rods. It does have some ability to let you catch some fish, but not all the time. Stick Rod, which you can afford for 300 coins over at Hometown, can be used. It's a lot way better in catching fish than the Tree Pole. Deluxe Pole, which you'll get at Simon Ford after you are rescued by Princess Peate from the waters, and you'll get that rod after the cutscene's done and checking that shelf and the shelf in the room that you're in. Basically, that rod allows you to catch Miron as long as you have gold bait to use. And of course, Trauma Rod could do all the things Deluxe Rod can, but with the sole exception of pulling up the treasure chest. And I should warn you, getting the treasure chest out of the oceans is not very easy, but it's definitely well worth it to have because it's the only way to get some of the rarer items out of the ocean floor, for the most part. But anyway, there's no fish in this water, so we'll go ahead and return to the map. We're going to get into battle so we can discuss the Guts ability. Once we get into battle, we'll do some discussing there. So anyway, we're going to be... so what does Guts do? Basically, Guts allows you to basically restore Ryu's HP. The amount he restores depends as to how much he currently has versus as to how much he's lost. So the HP can be pretty random in recovery. So sometimes it can refill just about all of Ryu's health, and sometimes it just does not refill it entirely. And that also requires you to avoid overusing it in time, because if you overuse it too much, what happens is that you'll get 0 back instead. So it's very important to not abuse Guts so much. And the amount of HP you heal, of course, is also depending on Ryu's Guts level. So with level 7 Flames, he can probably recover a lot of HP back with Guts, but it's also very important not to go overboard on that ability as well. It's a very decent ability and allows Ryu to keep himself alive, but in certain situations, like if you inadvertently get into a fight with Tiga, which you cannot win, trying to use Guts to keep you alive can be a very nightmarish process, as well as fighting Barbaria on your own with Ryu could also be problematic. It could definitely save you healing items, but at the same time, it doesn't keep Ryu at top at all times either. So I'm going to show you how Guts works in combat. Unfortunately, our enemy did not attack Ryu, but technically when Ryu performs Guts, he'll get HP back based on his HP. And of course, we saw him get 66 back despite the fact he had max HP. But using it too much can result in him getting 0 back. So be very careful when using Guts multiple times. Alright, so we're going to finish this battle off and then we'll go over Ryu's dragon abilities. There is one dragon ability we do not currently have at the moment, but we will get it as we go into the later parts of the game. Of course, Ryu learns 4 spells during the course of the game. 2 of the dragon abilities, namely the Dragon Puppies and G-Dragon/Kaiser Dragon, are acquired through story events, whereas you'll need to go to an optional event to get Fire, Ice, and Thunder Dragon abilities. So anyway, we'll go ahead and cover the spells. One important note is that I did teach Ryu Chop Chop, which you can get for forgiving Wildcat, and saying that you're soft-hearted to him will result in him teaching you Chop Chop. You can give this to any of the other characters, but I decided to Ryu since Ryu doesn't wants to preserve all of his AP, and I'll go over why that's important in a bit. Anyway, Time Warp is the first spell that Ryu gets, probably after he gets his first level up. This ability allows you to move time, so you can switch it from day to evening. There are some points in the game where you are required to be at specific locations during either day or night. And I think some monsters are actually affected by whether it's day or night as well. Of course, I can't prove that, but I do notice that Night Riders that exist in the Night Rider Armory Island tend to be more frequent during evening as opposed to day. So some monsters are actually affected as to what time you're going to be fighting them for the most part. But anyway, Time Warp kind of loses its importance as the story progresses. But it's very useful earlier on to advance certain storylines. Cure 1 is the second spell that Ryu learns, probably around level 7 or 8. And this spell basically does the same thing as a herb, heals 40 HP. But I'd rather take herbs, so if you ran out of healing items, you'll definitely want to resort to using Cure 1. Cure 2 is acquired after some point around the mid 10, probably around after level 15 or so. I forgot which level you get it on, but Cure 2 does the same thing as Help BL, and that heals 100 HP. It's best to start using it once your characters start hitting their max HP starts going above 100, and you'll probably want to start using those over Cure 1 or herbs. The final spell that Ryu learns on his own is Smoke. This helps lower down the amount of enemy encounters, but in my experience, it's probably just better just to fight all the enemies, but if you're going in a speedrun setting, it's probably a good idea to use this to lower the encounters, but a large amount of the dungeons in Breath of Fire 2 have like very high encounter rates. It is ridiculous. So, and besides, in a casual playthrough, you do want all of your party members winning their battles and leveling up consistently, because it's going to be a big difference keeping them alive in later confrontations with bosses and other stronger monsters. But it's there just in case you need to lower the encounter rate, and this is only Ryu's exclusive spell. Now, the Dragon Puppies can be acquired right after completing the events in Captain, and after you get Ray's Blessing. What happens is that after you meet with Santa and talk to her with Ryu, watch the scene, you'll get the Dragon Puppies right off the gate. They're the weakest of the Dragon forms, and they deal 256 damage when used at full AP. One of the kicker things about Dragon abilities in Breath of Fire 2 is that, unlike the first game, you do not remain in Dragon form for the whole fight. Instead, it's kind of a one-burst attack, pretty much. And this may be due to the fact that Ryu just recently gained the ability to turn into a dragon and doesn't have very much knowledge or know-how to remain in those forms. So as a result, he can only use it for burst damage. And the amount of AP that you have also affects the amount of damage you inflict. So if Ryu has full AP when he does this, he'll deal max damage with any of these dragon forms. So most of the time, the elemental dragons do not really do elemental damage like they're supposed to. They just deal neutral damage. The sole exception is the S-Idols near Semaphore. If you use Fire, Puppy, or Dragon on them, they'll take more damage due to elemental weakness. I think that's the only enemy in the entire game that has any elemental weaknesses applied when using dragon forms. But other than that, they just take neutral damage for the most part. Fire, Ice, and Thunder Dragons can be acquired through an optional event. This can be done right after you get Sean to join your party after you cure him of his curse. So once you have him on your party, you want to go to the lake west of Numafu's tower and swim towards the waterfall and go down it to get access to the cave where the Dragon Elder is and talk to him with Ryu in order to get the second level of dragon abilities. This basically allows Ryu to deal 512 damage at max AP when using any one of them, and it's probably Ryu's highest damage dealing ability he gets for a long while. So this could be used to help train your party and level them up at more later areas like Mount Mori than you would normally would have done earlier. G-Dragon, aka Kaiser Dragon, is Ryu's final dragon ability that he gets during the course of the main story, and of course this is the final dragon ability he does get until he gets Amnesia. Basically, it deals 999 damage at max AP usage, and it is good. It is a very good ability. But of course, by the time Ryu gets access to it and you start getting higher levels, it's more harder to maintain AP unless you have plenty of YSBLs to help keep him topped off. So if you're planning to level up Ryu to level 99, you might want to have plenty of AP restoration items on hand because you only get to use it once in combat until you have full AP again to deal full damage of 999 damage. It's arguably without a shadow of doubt the strongest dragon attack Ryu gets. Now, of course, we don't have it yet since we haven't gotten to that point in the game, but Anifia is the final, my apologies if I didn't say that correctly, is the final dragon ability you'll get during the course of the story after you arrive at the Dragon Clan's village. So once you go into the area where you meet the Great Wise Dragon and complete the test, you'll get Anifia, and that's used during your initial encounter with Deathhaven when you start off the battle. I won't go into full details for spoiler reasons, but it's definitely needed to trigger the full-blown fight with Deathhaven, and you cannot win the game without this dragon ability. So once you complete that test, that's when you get that ability, and you'll be able to use it against Deathhaven when you finally confront him. But anyway, that covers Ryu's spells. So in regards to endgame equipment, I do not have all of it, of course. But I can give you some general ideals as to what he should have. If you're going for max attack, Empire Sword is the way to go. That's located at a fishing spot east of Township. It's very tricky to trigger the fishing spot because you'll probably need Nina's ability to summon the Great Bird after you complete the story involving getting the Great Bird in general. So once you get the Charm Rod as well as that ability, you want to come back to Township, go east of it, fly over to the landmass between the mountains, but not on the island where the fishing spot is. Fight a battle, win that, and then most of the time the fishing spot will appear, and then try to fish out the chest that contains the Empire Sword. That's how you get it. You can definitely give Ryu Dragon Gear equipment in Infinity 2. The Dragon Helmet is probably his best helmet in general, but if you want to protect Ryu from status elements, it's probably best to give him the shiny helmet. Dragon Shield can also work as well, but you can, if you want the best shield, Medusa's Shield is probably the best one you can get. You can purchase that from Amiron between a fishing spot at Bandon and Kotlin. But it's best to do that before going to gate to trigger the story events there, because otherwise you'll lose the ability to use the Great Bird, and you won't be able to safely get over to the lands where the fishing spot is. So if you want the Medusa shield for Ryu, you can definitely give him that. His best armor is going to be either Dragon armor or Life armor or Sacred SH. Those are his other options for his best armor. Life armor or Sacred Shell is probably his best armor overall. Dragon armor is probably his third distant best armor, but it definitely, unless you want to cut down on spending or trying to win this gear, you can probably use that instead. A lot of the game characters' best gear and weapons and armor will require you to hunt down monsters, and you gotta get very lucky on hoping that they drop the gear for you, because rare item drops can be very difficult to score in Breath of Fire 2, but they're definitely well worth it if you want everyone's best gear in general. Now, for accessories outside of the fishing gear, you can give them Hero Belt if you're not planning on maximizing the stats. Iron Bracelet can also work well. If you're looking to win a Dream Bracelet, you can give that to Ryu to reduce, sometimes reduce spell damage to 0. Life Bar can also protect him from instant death attacks. Shining Bracelet, which you can win from Croakings on Giant Isle. Sometimes that can protect him from status elements if you want to free up Shining Helmet for the Dragon Helmet. That can also work too, but accessories aren't that really huge difference makers in Breath of Fire 2, but they're there to offer some additional help as well. And that's going to cover my guide for Ryu. Once I get done closing off stream and highlighting this, I'll have this exported to YouTube. I will have more guides for the other playable characters for Breath of Fire 2 coming up once we get them to level 50. And once that's up, I'll have another guide set up. I will be back later on tonight for more streaming as we get ready to do Fire Emblem Engage. And I will catch you all later. This is Storm331 signing off. Have a great day. Take care. And I will see you all next time.